My name is Athena. I live in Portland, Oregon, and 6 months ago the man I loved passed away from a sudden heart attack just a few weeks before our wedding. We had been engaged for nearly 3 years. Isaac wasn't wealthy, but he saved every penny to design a ring exactly the way I wanted. Simple, elegant, with a 3 carat emerald cut diamond we picked together in New York. That ring was worth $380,000, but to me, it was priceless. I always kept it in the drawer of my nightstand, inside a black velvet box lined with white silk. I didn't wear it every day, but I would often open the box, place it in my palm, and sit there in silence. It felt like Isaac was still there, in the glint of the stone, in the tiny engraving inside the band. My only always. That Monday morning, I woke up a little late after a sleepless night. When I opened the drawer, my hand hit empty space. I froze, then leaned closer. Nothing. The velvet box was gone. I pulled everything out: pill bottles, tissues, a dried out eyeliner pen, a few old letters. But it wasn't there. It felt like someone had punched me straight in the chest. I ran downstairs to the kitchen, where my mother was sipping coffee by the window. She was still in her robe, red nails polished, casually flipping through a magazine like the world hadn't shifted. "Mom, have you seen my ring?" I asked, my voice barely steady. She blinked a few times and took another sip of coffee. "Oh, that? We sold it." I froze in place. "You? What?" "The ring, Athena. Isaac's engagement ring. You weren't wearing it anymore, right?" I took a step back. Everything in my mind felt like it had slammed into a wall. What? My father appeared in the hallway, holding a copy of USA Today. His tone was flat, emotionless. Camille needed a chance to start over. Bali is a good place for emotional recovery. Camille, my younger sister, the one who quit her job because of toxic energy, then started taking sound healing and sun meditation classes on Instagram. And now they'd use the ring Isaac gave me to send her off on some journey to find her higher self. "That was mine, Isaac's, not yours, not Dad's," I said through clenched teeth. "You weren't using it, Athena, and you're not planning a wedding anymore, right?" my mom replied, her tone calm, like she was talking about outdated furniture. I looked at them both, not sure whether the fury or the disbelief was louder inside me. "And Camille? Did she know?" "She knew," my dad said. "She didn't want to tell you because she was afraid you'd overreact." I laughed. Sharp, dry, bitter. They were afraid I'd overreact to them stealing the last thing I had left of the man I loved? My mother put down her coffee, her gaze hardening slightly. "Don't call it stealing. Camille needed it. You need to learn to let go. It's in the past." I didn't say anything else. I turned, walked upstairs, and shut the door behind me. Empty. No tears, no screaming, just that kind of silence that smothers you. The same silence that had filled this house for years, the one that taught me sacrifice was the only way to be loved. One thought echoed in my head, over and over. They sold him. I hadn't stepped out of my room in 3 days. That little attic room filled with light, once where I used to read books and listen to Isaac play guitar, now felt like a hollow shell, soaked in rusted silence. The velvet box was gone, but in my mind I still saw Isaac's hand slipping the ring onto my finger, smiling as he said, "If one day you can't see me anymore, just look at this stone. It'll remember for me." I didn't want to check my phone, but by Wednesday night, after another sleepless night, I gave in. Notifications flooded the screen: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Camille Renner had just posted a new reel. "Sunrise in Uluwatu, a quiet space to hear yourself. Thank you to my family for always believing in my healing journey. Every wound needs time and light." Below the caption was a video of my sister sitting cross-legged on a bamboo hammock suspended in the forest, her hair tied high, a white flower garland around her neck. The background music was a soft, emotional piano piece. I scrolled down, trying to breathe evenly. Each new image cut a little deeper. Camille meditating on a beach. Camille drawing a mandala in the sand. Camille hugging an old elephant. Captioned, "Thank you, universe, for the second chance." Not a single mention of me. Not one word about Isaac. No one knew that the ring funding that second chance had once symbolized the love I lost. I opened the comments, praise flooded in. "Thank you for the inspiration. So powerful to let go of the past, to heal. You are light in the darkness." A verified account chimed in. "We'd love to have Camille share her healing journey on our upcoming podcast episode. Please check your DMs." I dropped the phone onto the bed like it had burned my hand. My throat went dry. I tried to inhale deeply, but the air around me felt too dense to move. Camille had never handled rejection well. She quit college after 3 months because the curriculum limited her spiritual growth. She switched jobs 5 times in 2 years because the energy wasn't nurturing. And now she was being praised, uplifted, called an inspiration, while I, who had lost everything, was erased. I pulled the blanket over my head and closed my eyes, but Camille's image kept flashing in my mind, arms raised in a release your energy pose, eyes to the sky, with the caption, "I choose light. I choose love. I choose myself." That post had over 12,000 likes. The next morning, my mother knocked on the door, set a breakfast tray on the table, and stood there looking at me. "You should be happy for your sister, Athena. She's finally finding her path." I didn't look at her. I only whispered one sentence. "She's coloring her light with my blood." My mother sighed, shook her head, and walked away. By late afternoon, Camille FaceTimed me. I didn't want to answer, but I did. She appeared on screen, sun-kissed skin, bright eyes, and the background of a sleek wooden villa. "Hey, sis," she beamed. "Did you see my video? I just got invited to speak on the Inner Bloom podcast. I might even sign a book deal." I said nothing. Camille kept going, oblivious. "Mom said you were upset about the ring. I'm sorry if it made you uncomfortable, but I mean, you weren't really using it anymore, right? Why hold on to something tied to painful memories?" I looked directly at the screen. "You think you're healing, but you're building a palace out of other people's wreckage." Camille blinked. "You're being dramatic. I'm just living authentically. If you can't do that, don't blame me." I ended the call. My hands trembled, but not from weakness this time. That night, I opened my laptop. I started backing up everything. Old emails from Isaac, photos of the ring, appraisal receipts, pictures of the engraving inside, and the handwritten letter from Isaac's mother after the funeral. Then I created a new folder. I named it Truth. I sat in front of my computer screen, the blue light casting a pale hue across my cheekbones, reflecting back an image of myself, drained, exhausted, but more clear-headed than I'd ever been. The Truth folder already held dozens of files, the receipt for the ring from a jeweler in Soho, the email confirming the engraving inside, the scanned letter from Isaac's mother after the funeral, where she called me the girl Isaac chose with his whole life. But I knew that still wasn't enough. I needed something undeniable, not just documents, but memories, things that couldn't be faked or erased with a clever caption. I dug into the old bookshelf in the basement storage room. The scent of damp wood and old paper clung to me as I opened a cardboard box labeled Athena High School. Inside were yearbooks, a few faded t-shirts, and a small plastic container holding DV tapes, the mini camcorder kind we used to film birthdays, holidays, and school events. The old camera was still there, battery long dead, but I found the charger. When the screen blinked on and the first video began to play, I saw myself. 9 years old, wearing a yellow floral dress, sitting beside a small birthday cake in the backyard. Everyone was singing. I was beaming. Then Camille stepped into the frame. She held a bottle filled with red liquid. No one noticed. Suddenly, she poured it straight over my head, soaking the bow in my hair and staining the dress. In the video, I burst into tears. Laughter followed. My mom, my dad, Camille. No one came to comfort me. I fast-forwarded. There were more clips, more scenes like that. Camille screaming, demanding my toys, smashing a craft I brought home from summer camp, only to be scooped into mom's arms because she's just sensitive. Meanwhile, I was always told, "You're the older sister, be patient." I hadn't remembered it all until I saw it on screen. The memories surged like a hidden flood. The held-in breaths. The nights I stuffed my sobs into pillows because crying makes other people uncomfortable. I copied all the footage onto my computer. The truth folder now had a new section, childhood patterns. I understood now. Camille taking the ring was just the tip of the iceberg. Near dawn, I pulled out a small wooden box I'd tucked away after Isaac's funeral. Inside were old concert tickets, photos, and one sealed envelope I had never opened. Isaac had written, "Only open if I ever feel too far away to hold your hand." My hands trembled as I tore the edge. Inside was a single piece of paper, his handwriting slanted and steady in black ink. "Athena, if you're reading this, maybe I'm no longer beside you, but your voice still is. Don't let anyone take that. Don't let the love I gave you be used as a tool for someone else. You are stronger than you think." I placed the letter on the table. The tears came, not loud, not shattering. They just fell, steady and quiet, as if I was finally breathing after days of being choked. The velvet cloth that once held the ring was folded in the side pocket of my old suitcase. I found it, deep black with silver-stitched edges and a faint worn corner. I folded it carefully, placed it in a USB case, holding the full backup of all the data I had gathered. That night, I labeled a new folder on my computer, Timeline of Misuse. I was chopping vegetables in the kitchen when my phone buzzed, a text from Madison, my college friend who had been following Camille's healing journey from the start. "Athena, you need to hear this. She mentioned the ring." Below the message was a link to a new podcast episode, the title in bold. "Letting Go to Be Reborn, The Healing Journey of Camille Renner." I turned off the stove, sat at the table, and put on my headphones. A soft background melody played, peaceful, soothing. Then the host's voice came in, deep and warm. "Today we're talking with Camille Renner, a true inspiration, someone who turned loss into light." Then Camille's voice followed. "Here are things you must let go of to live authentically." I once held on to something, materially valuable, but emotionally heavy. A ring, a gift from the past, tied to grief, death, and distorted expectations. I sat upright. My heart was pounding, but my face was expressionless. I decided to release it. I no longer wanted to keep anything tied to a story that wasn't mine. And once I let it go, I felt relief. Freedom. For the first time, I was able to truly heal. The host cut in, voice full of empathy. "So you chose to leave behind what once represented a whole different life?" "Yes," Camille sighed. "My sister used to keep that ring. But honestly, she never let go of the pain. And when people cling to pain, they often become toxic. Not just to themselves, but to those around them." I took off the headphones. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just felt a silence inside me that seemed to drain the blood from my veins. Camille hadn't just erased me from the story. She'd rewritten the entire narrative in the colors of a hero. She turned my love, Isaac's love, into a symbol of toxicity. She used the ring to define me as someone clingy, weak, and unwilling to move on. Not once did the podcast mention my name, but I was present in every corner of the story, like a shadow twisted to let Camille shine. I opened my laptop, went to the truth folder, and created a new file, podcast_audio_evidence MP3. I downloaded the episode, carefully saving the date, link, description, and guest list. I wasn't sure if I was doing it to retaliate or simply because I refused to be rewritten. As I tagged key timestamps, my phone rang again. This time it was Alyssa, an old friend in PR. "Athena, your sister's being invited to a television series about female leaders overcoming trauma." She's trending as an inspirational speaker. I typed a few keywords into Google. Countless results popped up. Camille Renner, From Grief to Glory. The woman who chose peace over diamonds. I nearly laughed. She didn't let go of the ring. She stole it. I opened an old folder with digitized videos. One clip showed Isaac and me at our engagement party. He held up the ring, smiling brightly. She picked this stone, and I picked her. I paused a frame, Isaac's face, alive, sincere. This wasn't a production, this was my life. I hovered my mouse over the audio file of his handwritten letter and let it play, his voice reminding me, "Don't let anyone take your voice. Don't let them turn my love into a prop for their performance." I opened another folder, legal backup. I started drafting a documentation file, pasting the podcast link, screenshots, and time-stamped Camille quotes. Not to sue, not for revenge, but to preserve the truth, before someone else could label the shattered pieces they created as light. I saved everything onto a USB drive, placed it inside the silver-trimmed velvet box, the same box that once held the ring, now holding a copy of my voice. And as I closed the box, I whispered to myself, if she chose the stage, I'll choose the light behind it. But this time, I'll be the one to flip the switch. 3 weeks after the podcast, Camille appeared on the cover of Women Forward magazine under a gold-embossed headline, From Grief to Wisdom, Camille Renner and the Journey of Becoming Herself. In the photo, she stood in profile, wearing a simple white dress, her hand gently resting over her chest as if in prayer. People were calling her the healing icon of a new generation. I wasn't surprised when I received an email from the Cascade Collective, a group that hosts an annual gala celebrating inspiring women across the Western U.S. This year's speaker list featured a standout name, Camille Renner, honored guest. Topic: Choosing Light in the Darkness. I closed my laptop and smiled. I knew this gala. Isaac had once quietly donated to them during an event supporting widowed women. He told me, no need for credit, just make sure the echo lasts. This year, they had found an anonymous sponsor to cover the full cost of the venue, a luxurious conference center in Bellevue, overlooking the lake. That sponsor was me. I'd submitted the application under the LL Fund, short for Langford Iden, our surnames. Throughout the entire process, I kept my identity hidden, working directly with the program director, Elise, a meticulous and fair woman. I attached only one condition: permission to show a short 3-minute video from an anonymous voice during the featured storyteller slot, right before the final speaker. They agreed, no questions asked. I began recording the video in a small studio in Fremont. White backdrop, soft lighting, no effects, no music, just me wearing a black sweater, looking directly into the camera. My name is Athena Renner, and if you're hearing me now, it means I've chosen not to stay silent anymore. My voice didn't shake, it was steady and clear. The engagement ring my partner Isaac Iden saved up for 4 years to create was sold by my family, no warning, no permission. They said I didn't need it, because the man who gave it to me was no longer alive, and then they used that money to fund my sister Camille's healing journey, the woman sitting in this very room. I paused. Not long, but long enough to make any future audience hold their breath. I'm not telling this story to steal anyone's spotlight. I'm saying it because light can't be built on darkness that's never been acknowledged. And love, if twisted into a tool for fame, is no longer sacred. I closed with a quote from Isaac, etched into his gravestone. Worth isn't in the applause, it's in what we hold on to when the curtain falls. I saved the video, encrypted it, and placed it on a USB, sending it along with a signed confidentiality letter to Elise. A week later, she confirmed. Scheduled exactly as requested, 8:17 p.m. before Camille Renner takes the stage. On the gala night, I didn't dress to stand out. A dark navy high-neck dress, hair tied back, no lipstick. I went alone, no name badge, no check-in at the front desk. I sat in the very back row near the exit, where no one would notice. Camille took the stage at 8 o'clock, white dress, soft curls, the spotlight casting a warm glow around her like some kind of blessing. Her voice was low, well-rehearsed. I once held on to objects filled with negative energy, keepsakes that seemed valuable but were really chains, and I let them go. The audience nodded. Some teared up. I didn't react. I only checked the time, 8:16. 1 minute later, just as Camille prepared to close with "I chose light," the auditorium dimmed. The LED screen behind her went black. Then my voice filled the room, bright, unmistakable. The room froze. Every whisper died. When I spoke of the ring, when I said Camille was in the room, not naming her, not pointing, silverware stopped clinking against glasses. I saw my mother in row 3, face pale. Camille stood frozen, hands clenched tight. A bead of sweat slid down her temple. When the video ended, no one clapped. No one spoke. I rose quietly and walked to the exit as the event coordinator stammered on stage. We'll take a 10-minute intermission before the next segment. I didn't look back. The breeze off the lake was cold and clean. I placed a hand over my purse, where the USB still rested inside its silver velvet lining. For the first time in months, my heart felt quiet, but whole. The next morning after the gala, my phone buzzed nonstop like there was a fire in the house I didn't know about. Texts, alerts, emails, every app blinked red. I hadn't touched a single one. I made coffee like I always did, sat at the kitchen table by the window, and waited for the cup to cool. When I finally opened Instagram, I saw exactly what I had predicted, but still found it hard to believe. Camille Renner, story 1/4. She was crying. Real tears, no makeup, eyes puffy, the camera angle shaky, like she'd just dropped the phone and picked it back up at the perfect moment. I never thought my sister would do that. Camille's voice cracked, her hand over her heart like it had just shattered. In front of hundreds of people. And record it too. I stared at the screen, eyes steady. The next story showed her in the car, tears streaming down. All I ever tried to do was live authentically. I never named names, I never attacked anyone. I chose silence, but apparently, envy never stays silent. View count, over 300,000. The comments flooded in under the next post, a black and white image with the caption, "I'm hurt, but I won't fall." No one deserves to be attacked like that, Camille. Your sister sounds toxic. Keep shining, don't let darkness win. A short article from Seattle Daily reposted the gala clip under the headline, "The Darkness Behind the Light, Speaker Exposed by Sister During Event." No one asked for context, no one cared about the full story. By 10 a.m., I got a message from Mom. "You just destroyed this family, hope you're proud." Then an email from Dad, just one line. "Silence is also a form of kindness, Athena." I didn't reply. I didn't delete the messages. I printed them out. I printed the article. I printed Camilla's podcast blurb. I printed the hateful comments aimed at me from her followers. Then I printed the full transcript of her recent podcast. Every line Camille said, every embellishment from the host, every veiled jab at me with phrases like, "They never want you to escape the shadow they built around you." I placed everything in a clear plastic folder, labeled it by hand, a distortion Fritz. Not to attack, not to retaliate, just to remind myself I'm not crazy, not imagining this, and not alone. That afternoon, Elise, the gala program director, called. Her voice was calm but firm. "Athena, I want you to know we stand by the truth. We're not taking down the video, and if Camille chooses a media response, that's her call." I thanked her and hung up. I didn't mention I still hadn't watched the gala video. I didn't need to. I had lived it. An hour later, Madison texted. "Camille's going live tonight to set the record straight. Looks like she's got people helping her protect her image." I replied, "I don't play the image game. I just hold on to what they tried to bury. That night, I didn't watch the live stream. Instead, I worked in my small office, reviewing the scanned documents related to the ring. I labeled everything clearly, from when Isaac commissioned the design, chose the stone, to the final receipt, 3 months before he died. I opened the silver velvet box in the left drawer, the USB still inside, along with Isaac's handwritten note. If someone tells your story wrong, don't scream. Just tell it again clearly enough for the truth to hold. I folded the note back into place, then I wrote at the top of the folder, I don't need to be believed, I just refuse to be rewritten. I shelved it between 2 books, Legacy and Loss, and The Weight of Silence. As the sky turned rainy, I brewed a second cup of ginger tea, opened the window, and let the night air in. I didn't fight the media storm, I just stood still until it passed. That afternoon, the rain in Seattle was steady and soft. I drove through glistening streets, the windshield wipers ticking like a countdown in my chest. My destination, the old house in Lakewood, the one I grew up in and slowly disappeared from. I didn't text ahead, didn't knock. The front door was slightly ajar, as if someone had been expecting me, or maybe they just didn't think I needed to be invited anymore. Inside, the familiar scent of air freshener still lingered, but everything looked like a stage with a new set. Photos of Camille were everywhere, from the dining table to the TV stand, her smiling, doing yoga, giving speeches. Even a framed clipping labeled Woman of the Year. I placed my handbag on the sofa. Inside, a silver velvet box and a file folder containing the podcast recording, transcript, photos of the ring, and receipts. Camille stepped out from the kitchen holding a mug of chamomile tea. Her hair was neatly tied up, wearing a hoodie that said Grace over Guilt. When she saw me, she paused mid-step. Oh, I didn't think you would ever come back. I said nothing. I pulled the velvet box from my bag and placed it on the table. I'm not here to apologize, and I'm not here to listen to your excuses. Camille set her tea down, exhaling like she was bracing for an interview. If you're here because of the video, then I think you're misunderstanding. Everything I said was how I truly felt. I never named anyone. I wasn't targeting you. I pulled out the transcript and flipped to the part where she called the ring a vessel of toxic energy. What is that if not aimed at the person who kept it safe for 3 years? Camille stiffened. I laid down something else, a printed copy of Isaac's handwritten letter. You have the right to heal, Camille, but no one has the right to build a monument to themselves on someone else's pain. The room fell silent. Just then, my mother stepped out from the hallway. She was wearing a faded gray cardigan, still holding a dish towel. Athena, why are you here? We were just starting to find peace again. I looked straight into her eyes. Peace for who? For the daughter you praise, or the one you pretend never existed? My mother frowned. Don't say I never loved you. I let out a soft laugh. Not because I was amused, but because I'd heard this line too many times. You loved the silent version of me, the one who endured, who never spoke up, who gave everything to Camille. But I'm not her anymore. My mother stepped closer, lowering her voice. We're still family. Blood doesn't change. Took a long, steady breath. No anger, no trembling. We may share blood, but respect isn't genetic, and I'm not staying in a place that only holds me by blood. I looked at Camille one last time. I'm not here to ruin you. You're doing a fine job of that yourself. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door, but then I paused and turned back slightly. That velvet box used to hold the ring Isaac gave me. Now it holds the truth you tried to erase. If you've got any courage left, open it. I opened the door. A cold gust rushed in, carrying the scent of rain and damp earth. My mother didn't call me back. Camille didn't say a word. The door closed behind me, not slammed, not yanked, just a soft click, final, like closing a chapter I should have ended long ago. I walked to my car, turned on the headlights, and let the wipers resume their rhythm. Steady, resolute, just like me now. 3 months after I walked away from the house in Lakewood, I signed a lease for a small storefront on Main Street in the town of Ashland, Southern Oregon. It was a place Isaac once said he'd love to settle down in when we passed through on a road trip. He told me, "If one day we're tired of the world, let's come back here and make something with our hands. Something beautiful and slow." I named the studio Aiden and Athena. No embellishment, no clever tagline, just a simple name, like the life I was rebuilding. Not about loss anymore, but about continuation. There was no grand opening, no red ribbon, just sunlight slicing through the glass window, dancing across empty silver trays, and the fresh scent of pine wood. On the first day, I laid out each tool by hand: the stone grinder, the torch, the kiln, the engraving pliers, and the magnifying glass Isaac gave me on our first Christmas, along with a handwritten card that said, "To see the smallest things is the deepest way to love." I hung only one photo on the wall, a black and white shot of Isaac leaning in to fix a ring box hinge, his hair tousled, hands covered in sweat, eyes still glowing. Below it was a thin steel plaque, crafted with memory, not for memory. The first collection I made was rings, simple, but each had a white daisy pattern etched on the inside, not visible to others. You had to look closely, carefully, to see it. On Saturday afternoon, a woman in her 70s stepped into the store, holding an old pendant. "I want to have this recast into a ring, for my right hand close to my heart, not dangling from my neck anymore." I asked her, "What did it used to be for you?" She replied, "The only photo I have of my husband in uniform, taken the day before he left. They sent it back to me 3 months later." I nodded and said, "I won't make it prettier. I'll keep it exactly as memory shaped it, just add a way for you to carry it without the weight." She smiled, then whispered, "My daughter follows you online. You're the one who stood up at the gala last year, right?" I paused, then said, "I didn't stand up to be seen, I stood up so I wouldn't be stepped on anymore." By the second week, I placed a display case in the center of the shop. Inside was the old silver velvet cloth, the one that once held Isaac's ring, then later carried the recording of truth. On top of it sat a single ring, no gemstones, just a smooth steel band with 2 words engraved on the outside. Still here. A small card beside it read, "This ring is not for sale, because it cost everything to create. Sometimes people ask to buy it. I just smile and say, if you know who you are, you won't need to own it." One late afternoon, Madison stopped by. She brought vanilla lattes and a folded newspaper. Front page, Studio Athena, reborn from the silent. The article told the story of my journey. No scandals, no clickbait quotes, just slow, respectful words. "Will you do a TV interview?" Madison asked, sitting on the leather stool by the counter. I shook my head, smiling. "I've got my stage, but I choose to stand beneath the spotlight now, not in the middle of it." The breeze outside gently stirred the curtain. Golden light spilled across the floorboards, like a parting greeting from a past already forgiven. I stepped outside, flipped the open sign on the door, and walked back in to turn on my desk lamp. I'm not being sold off anymore. I'm alive, by my own hands, by my own truth, and this time, I belong to myself. From a woman betrayed by her own family, Athena turned pain into strength and silence into action. She didn't seek applause or apologies. By telling the truth with clarity and resolve, Athena reclaimed the worth and voice once taken from her. The Aiden and Athena Jewelry Studio is more than just a workplace. It's a symbol of rebirth, where memories are preserved and dignity is no longer up for negotiation. This is how she chooses to live, grounded, unshakable, and impossible to erase. What do you think about Athena's choice? Is healing found in silence or in truth? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful stories about family and the journey to reclaim oneself.